What's up guys, JNO here and welcome today to another episode of the NeXt on the FM Scout channel. And today we are looking at an absolute legend, one of my favourite players as I'm part Brazilian, that is Roberto Carlos. That's right, we're looking for the left back that could score free kicks that make your chin drop to the floor. I found a screenshot of him in 1997 at the age of 24 and the stats look ridiculous, especially for a left back. The ones that we're going to be searching for are aggression, determination, dribbling, flair, off the ball, pace, passing, set pieces, which we'll look at free kicks for, and then shooting. Set pieces and shooting, 20 apiece. That is just ridiculous. And then finally we'll be looking for technique, which is 17. I mean, this guy is just stacked as a left back. He could have very well been put as a left midfielder, a bit like Gareth Bale was. Let's see if there's anyone who you can build into being the next Roberto Carlos. Okay, so the first player we're looking at is a right back. I am actually going to look at right and left backs for this search, but this guy can also play left back, and his name is Felix Pazlak, and he plays for Borussia Dortmund. Now, he's coming in at number 5 because he's not the perfect replacement for a Roberto Carlos or like-for-like match. A lot of his stats don't even actually match with Roberto Carlos the Great. You know, I look for 15 and up to match Roberto Carlos's 15 and up stats, and Pazlak has none of the main attributes over 15. If we look, he's got dribbling of 13, he's got free kick taken of 10 to 12, long shots of 14, passing of 12, tackling of 10 to 13, technique of 13, positioning 11 to 13, off the ball 14, flair 14, determination 14, aggression 14, and his pace is at 13. But on the plus side, he is 24 years old, so you've still got time to make him into something even better, and that's in 2022. So you've got a long time to work on this guy and make him a right or left back that could match Roberto Carlos. Now, if we have a look at his stats, his very first season was a 7.15 average rating, and then he kind of was under 7 until the last 2 seasons where he was 7.18 and 7.02. Now, the reason I have hope for him being the next Roberto Carlos is because goals in the last 2 seasons have been 6 and 6. Now, that is great return for a right or left back. If we have a look at his scout report, we can see he's a professional individual, which means he will be quite easy to train up. And he's also a very athletic player. So you definitely could build this guy into a Roberto Carlos. And if we have a look at the stats for the last season, because I don't have the league loaded up, there's only really 11 appearances in the European Cup. He had 16 shots, 5 on target, 2 goals, which isn't bad for a right or left back. 309 passes, 187 were successful, which is a 61% success rate. We had 34 tackles and won 26 of them, which is a 76% success rate. So he's not the finished article by any means, but he's definitely someone you could work on to make the next Roberto Carlos. Coming in at number 4 is Laven Kazama. Now, I apologise if I said that wrong, but he's a 27-year-old who plays for Paris Saint-Germain, and look at those overall stats. They're pretty impressive. Not all of them, of course, match Roberto Carlos, but the stats that do are pace, off the ball, flair, determination, and dribbling. So he's still got some things to work on. Ideally, we'd want better free kick taking and better long shots, because that's something Roberto Carlos was well known for. But other than that, he's definitely a very, very good left back. If we have a look at his history, we can see he always has over 7 average rating for every season he's played. Goal-wise, you're looking at about 2 to 3 goals in a season, which isn't perfect, but he does get assists as well. His goal scoring and assist record probably isn't as high as I'd like to be the next Roberto Carlos, but the average rating definitely is quite good. If we have a look at the scout report, we can see he'd be a good signing for most Premier Division sides, possesses great pace, and is a natural in a couple of positions, and has a fairly determined attitude. If we have a look at his stats, we can see that he has 20 shots this season, 7 of which were on target, 2 goals, 939 passes, 574 were successful, which means 61% of them were successful. 118 tackles, 98 won, which means an 83% success rate on tackles. So He's definitely someone that you could potentially make into Roberto Carlos, but he is by no means the best solution to our search. Okay, so coming in at number 3 is Alex Sandro, 30-year-old Brazilian left back, so he definitely matches as far as position and nationality are concerned. The stats that match are flair, technique, off the ball, positioning and pace. Again, we would like better long shots and better free kicks, but in a perfect world, we'd just be buying someone with all the stats that match Roberto Carlos. If we have a look at his history, we can see that apart from his first season, he has got over 7 rating in every season, usually around the 7.5 average rating mark. He gets quite a few assists, having one season with 9 assists, one season with 11 assists, but goal-wise, until this last season, he only would score about 1 goal or no goals at all, but this season he has scored 3. So at 30, he's starting to turn into a player that could be considered the next Roberto Carlos, but that is a little bit late. If we have a look at his scout report, we can see he's highly professional, so he definitely would be someone you could train up into that kind of left back. First touch is very good, be a leading player for most Premier Division sides, and he is a skillful player, which we love when we have a Brazilian left back. And he has been in really good form recently, enjoys the big matches and is fairly consistent as a performer. Again, we only have 21 matches to look at with him, but he's had 7 shots, 3 on target, which is a 43% success rate, and 1 goal. 682 passes, 410 which were successful, which is a 60% success rate, and 83 tackles, which he won 66, which was an 80% success rate. Now let's get on to the top 2 and see who really compares to Roberto Carlos. Coming in at number 2 is Danilo of Real Madrid, a Brazilian right back, 30 years old, so he's on the wrong side of the pitch unfortunately, but he is one of the better solutions to having a wing back that is similar to Roberto Carlos. The attributes that match are pace off the ball, determination and tackling. Now, he hasn't actually got as many of the good stats that we'd be looking for from a Roberto Carlos. We'd want dribbling to be higher, long shots to be higher, free kick taken to be higher. But when you look at everything else, you'll see why I consider him the second best option for finding yourself the next Roberto Carlos. If we have a look at his average rating, it is always above 7. The last season it was 7.54. He's always good for a goal or 2 in a season, with a bunch of assists. In 2019-2020 he actually managed to get 6 assists. If we have a look at his scout report, we can see he's highly ambitious, leading player for most Premier Division sides, resolute and consistent, as well as athletic, and enjoys the big matches. And if we have a look at the stats, we can see he's had 28 shots, got 6 on target, which is a 21% success rate, and has scored 3 goals. Now if you worked on his shooting, I reckon that could be a lot higher. Passes, he's made 1,434 passes, 905 of them were successful, which means a 63% success rate. Key passes 15, which is also pretty impressive. 274 tackles made, 222 of them were won, which is an 81% success rate. But now let's get on to the person who you can mould into the next Roberto Carlos the most. It is someone well known, but he just blows everyone else out of the water. Yes, that's right, you're seeing it right. At number 1 is David Alaba. Now I know he's going to cost you an absolute bomb, but in 2022 he's only 29 years old. Now the reason I consider him the player that you can most mould into the next Roberto Carlos is because he's got things like pace, aggression and determination and technique and passing, but he has the free kicks and his long shots are 14. You work on them and you could potentially have the next Roberto Carlos on your hands. If we have a look at these stats, you can also see his average rating blows everyone else out of the water. If I just read them all out, you'll understand my decision. 7.78, 7.92, 7.64, 7.57, 7.69, 7.56 and 7.75. None of those are below 7.5 average rating. Now his assists and goals kind of go up and down. The goals are kind of 3 or 2 or none at all. The assists vary from none all the way up to 5. So we would like to get that number up, but that could simply be the position he's been playing in. he is someone who can play left back, but he can also play centre defence, and he can play in the midfield. So who knows where Bayern have been playing him. If we have a look at his stats, we can see he's had 6 shots. Unfortunately, I don't have the German League loaded up. Has got 1 on target, but he's scored 1 goal from 6 shots. So in a season, you may get more than that. The fact that I don't have the German League loaded makes his stats even more impressive. Now, you could argue that the reason his average rating is so high is because he's had less games, so there's less chance for him to knock it down. But I like to see it as out of 12 games, he's just been great in every single one of those games. Passing wise, he's had 443 passes with a success rate of 85%, with 375 passes successful and 5 key passes in 12 games. And tackling wise, 60 tackles, he's won 50 of them, which is an 83% success rate. So I know it's not really someone new, but it is someone that if you manage to get hold of at the beginning of the game, you could turn into the next Roberto Carlos, and that man is David Alaba. Now, you feel free to leave in the comments down below if you do not agree with my decision. I know it's not exactly a hidden gem or anything, but David Alaba is the one, stats-wise and attribute-wise, that matches Roberto Carlos the most. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been JNO. You've been awesome. And remember, stay tuned to the FM Scout YouTube channel.